I hear a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I hear a second. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. At this time, do we have any business coming out of executive session?
Mr. Chairman, I do have one motion. That motion would be to authorize the administrator to execute a modification of the November 2016 Sherwood Tract Facilitation Agreement so as to delay repayment of the funds provided by the county under that agreement until the property is sold to a developer as part of the initiative package or expiration of the option agreement, whichever occurs first. We need a motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, at this time, I would ask Mr. Sauls to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Ms. Clark.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us bow our heads. Our Heavenly Father, here we come once again. We're your children, and we're asking you to guide and direct us. Father God, we ask that you give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the understanding to carry on the business that's needed in Jasper County. Father God, we're going to ask your blessing upon all those who have assembled out there. But God, we're asking you that this is not their last time. Let them come back again. Let them see what's going on in the county. Let them see what's happening with the council. Because I don't believe that one meeting would give you the full understanding that they deserve. We ask that you look over this council, lead and direct us, because God, we know that you are an awesome God. And anything that you put your hands on, no harm can come to it. Lean not to thy own understanding, but stay and show thyself approved. We ask you, Jesus, that you, blessed administrator and the attorney of this county, make things better for them. Give them an easy day sometime. But most of all, God, we ask that you bind all of us and throw your arms of protection around us and guide us in the way that you would have us to go. Those that know the word of the Lord, let everybody say amen.
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 Go for public hearing. Yeah. We'll get a vote to do it, to put it over. All right. At this time, we have a slightly modified, maybe permanent, maybe temporary item. Council members' comments on the agenda items. And I will start out by saying the reason we have 3 readings on the ordinance, the towns only have 2. Whether that means they are 50% smarter than we are or what, I don't know. But we have, by state law, 3 readings on an item, which means we don't do things in terms of ordinances on a whim or an impulse. It takes 3 readings, which normally would take 6 weeks, 2 months, and we have a public hearing so that we make sure that we or getting the input from the public hearing. And two adages or old sayings of people smarter than I am come to my mind. One is Mark Twain, who said, ignorance isn't what people don't know, it's when they know stuff that just ain't so. So, and I'm referring to both directions, and behind the desk and in front of the desk, is so that we all know have the same information. Sometimes we'll all have the same information and arrive at the same conclusion. Other times we'll have the same information, arrive at different conclusions, but at least we got the same information. The other old saying that comes to my mind is the three blind men and the elephant. For those of you who don't remember, one blind man ran up to the elephant leg and he said, "Oh, I know what an elephant looks like now. It looks just like a tree." Another one came up to the elephant's trunk and said, "Oh, the elephant must look like a snake." And the other one came up to his tail and I forgot what he looked like, but it something looked like a brush, whatever it was. And so those part of what we're dealing with is those people in calf pen who look at the elephant might see something different than the people from Partyville or Purisburg or Gillisonville. So we all want to make sure we're seeing the same elephant and do that, because when we pass an ordinance, we normally got to feed everybody out of the same spoon. So we got one spoon that applies to developers from off somewhere, that applies to people that got off the boat in 1732, descendants. We've got, we still got one spoon for everybody. And so sometimes things that don't fit as well for one group as another, we have to figure out some way to make the rain fall equally on everybody. And so we want y'all's information. Somebody said, y'all be sure and come and bring your anger. You can bring anger if you want. We can't stop that, but we'd rather have you bring your information, your education, so we know what you're thinking, what you want, and so we can, when we find something that's broke, we can try to fix it. If we find something that's not as good as it could be, we can try to make it better. If we find something just a plain bad idea, we can back away from it. So that's my 2 cents worth. Mr. Brantley, you got any comments on any agenda item?
Well, Exhibit 16B, which we don't have in our packet here, I would certainly like for us to table it, because I don't think it's appropriate understanding the wishes of the community that we represent. And I think we should certainly honor their wishes. And I'd like for us to really table that.
Mr. Etheridge, you got any comments?
I would also agree with Mr. Brandt that we need to table part of it, but we don't need to table the public hearing. The public hearing is the main reason that we are here tonight. As Mr. Johnson said, we have 3 readings. We have the first reading, then we have a public hearing before the second reading. When we do the third reading, that's when you need to get upset. If it's not what you want, then that's when you get upset. You don't get upset after the first reading before we've had a public hearing. You're here tonight, and I'm sure that many of you are going to share some good ideas with us, and we're going to make some changes in this ordinance, I feel sure. So, you know, if we had the public hearing tonight and did the second reading, then I would be upset myself. So, but I just got to say that we've done one reading out of 3. The public hearing comes after the first reading, before any second or third reading. And we appreciate y'all coming tonight. We really do. I think that the wording of what we did last time was not correct. It should have been worded a little different, but anyway, thank y'all for coming. Thank y'all for coming.
Mr. Souls, any comments on any item on the agenda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the Planning Commission because they've put a lot of work and effort into the manufactured housing ordinance. There's still a lot of work to be done. You know, the law of unintended consequences is tricky, and we got to get this right because it's a sensitive issue. It affects people's lives. You know, everybody who has property wants to be able to leave it to their children or deed them some property to build a home on. Heirs property, we want to be sensitive to that. We got to make sure that we get this right, and it takes a lot of information, a lot of time, a lot of study, and a lot of input from the community, because I can assure you that I don't have all the answers. But I look to the Planning Commission and the people of the county to give us advice and direction on what works best. I have an open mind and open ears, so that's where I am, and I think that's where our council is from what you've heard tonight. I look forward to the public comment and input. We'll be taking notes, and hopefully we can incorporate that and go back, send it back to the Planning Commission so that they can bring us back a new product to consider and try to do what's best for the people of the county. And I can assure you that we're going to work 110% on making this the best that it can be and try to keep everybody, you know, be fair to everybody. That's what we want to do. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Clark?
Good afternoon to all. Like Molly and Tom said, it's a process. And if you don't know the process, then yes, you are going to get upset. Now, our recommendation comes to us by way of the planning commissioners. They brings it to us. We do the initial reading on it, which we just do it so that we can put it into effect so that we can start work on it. The first document that we approved, the first reading, we did not put it together. The council did not. It came from the planning commissioners. Now we have 2 more readings on this document. This is where we begin our work. This is where we begin to pull and shuffle and get other points of view, etc. Nobody is up here to take anybody's land, as I read on the Facebook committee. Come out because they're going to take your land. Take your land for what? Take your land for what? The next thing on there was come and bring your anger. You can get angry, but you will do it in an orderly and a professional manner. Because if not, when we point to him, he's going to remove you. But I don't think we will have any of that in here tonight. We're going to work with you. We want what's best for you all. We're not going to ever let you go lacking. So please, bear with us. Come to us. But our next council meeting is the first Monday. And do we meet first Monday or Tuesday?
Third Monday.
Third Monday. Third Monday in September. I want to see the same crowd again. so that we can go through and work on things so that you will understand what is happening in your county. Thank you, and may God bless each and every one of you.
And if y'all don't mind my saying so, let me emphasize one thing. This has absolutely nothing to do with the division of property. If you want to cut off a lot for somebody in your family, nothing has changed. The only issue comes from a perceived problem that a couple of things were going on. One is that people, business people, and there's nothing wrong with making money, but business people were crowding as many derelict mobile homes on a piece of property as they could get by with. And the other was, as mobile home parks closed in Beaufort County, there was a flood of derelict trailers coming in. Some of them got here, I think about 25% of it was left in the ditches along the route to get here. But there was a perceived problem with derelict mobile homes being moved out of closed trailer parks in Beaufort. This is not a result of some kind of a study. It's reports we got from citizens, and we moved to try to solve that perceived problem. Perhaps we didn't think about things where the title was confused enough to stop subdivision. But that's one of the things that has now been brought to our attention, and we're moving to resolve that, hopefully for the better. All right. At this time, and nobody commented on the fire, but we're gonna have a lot of education on that very shortly. So at this time, I would recognize Lisa Wagner to comment on manufactured housing.
Good evening, Chairman and County Council. I put together a PowerPoint presentation. Sometimes pictures speak a little louder than words, but so I'm Lisa Wagner. I'm Director of Planning and Building Services. Our department is responsible for overseeing zoning and land development regulations. We make sure that applications are in conformance with those regulations. As related to manufactured homes, we issue zoning and building permits. We provide inspections, code enforcement. So what is zoning? Zoning is the way that governments control the physical development of land and the kinds of uses that can take place on each individual property. Zoning laws typically specify the areas in which residential, industrial, recreational, or commercial activities may take place. Besides restricting the uses that can be made of land and buildings, zoning laws also regulate the dimensional requirements for lots and buildings and density, which is the number of structures allowed on a lot. Manufactured home standards, county and state standards versus national HUD standards. Manufactured homes are governed by the federal HUD code, although in South Carolina, the Manufactured Housing Board is the responsible agency for licensing, installation standards, and enforcement. Manufactured homes are constructed according to the federal HUD code and therefore are preempted from any local jurisdiction adopting changes to the construction of a manufactured house. South Carolina law defines a manufactured home as a home that's built in a factory according to the Federal Manufactured Home Construction and Safety Standards known as the HUD code, and is then transported and installed at its final destination. The HUD code governs homes built after June 15, 1976. Homes built in a similar fashion prior to that date are referred to as mobile homes. In accordance with the HUD code, a manufactured home means a structure transportable in one or more sections, which in the traveling mode is at least 8 feet wide and 40 feet long, or when erected on site is 320 square feet and built on a permanent chassis and designed to be used as a dwelling with or without a permanent foundation when connected to the required utilities, includes plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical systems contained in it. As it was mentioned just a few minutes ago, there are a lot of rumors out there. So I named just facts versus fiction. And I just listed two of the things that have been presented to me, which is being required to have 10 acres for one mobile home and also 25 acres for one mobile home. Those are both not true. That's fiction. As far as the fact, Jasper County zoning ordinance in the residential zoning district has a minimum lot size of a ½ acre. Rural preservation zoning district is 1 acre, and community commercial zoning district is a ½ acre. Currently, Article 9:1.5 of the Jasper County zoning ordinance says after the effective date of this ordinance, meaning the adoption of November 13, 2007, when the zoning ordinance was adopted, there shall be only one principal structure allowed on each lot with the exception of planned development districts and commercial tract developments and buildings such as accessory structures and buildings. However, there was an amendment made in 2009 to allow a second single-family dwelling unit, which was a stick-built house, and that was a conditional use. So you had to meet certain conditions in order to do that. Where the use chart allowed the second house, you had to have minimum lot sizes. Where we just showed you the residential zone was a ½ acre, you would have been required to have at least 1 whole acre. In the rural preservation zone, you would have been required to have 2 acres. You also would have had to meet the setbacks. You would have to have, the property would have had to been arranged in a fashion where you could subdivide the property in the future. So we weren't requiring you to do that, but we say it as like there would be imaginary lines where in the future it could be subdividable, and it would also have to have its own septic tank. Some of the issues that we're dealing with in the planning and building department are illegal mobile home parks, manufactured homes that are not meeting habitability standards, manufactured homes being brought into the county without proper permits, inadequate infrastructure, which poses a real challenge to Jasper County Emergency Services as far as saving property and life. Just an example, this is a 1974 mobile home. These are the type of mobile homes we are trying to prevent from coming into the county. So this is a 74, and we wouldn't permit it today if you came in, but this was actually in the county, and I don't know why we didn't put the picture of the front of it up because it doesn't have any doors. And this is actually located on a property where the person acquired the property through a tax sale. They didn't acquire the mobile home. So they sent an eviction notice to the person who owned the mobile home to come get it. He didn't pick it up. So they decided they would just fix it up. It should not be lived in. It doesn't meet any type of habitability standards. So we've condemned it. And there were no proper permits in place to even do any work to the mobile home, which we're seeing that happen more and more. Another mobile home, don't have the exact year on this, but this is a 1980s manufactured home. As you can see, it's not been maintained. And nobody likes this when this is brought up into their backyard or beside them or across the street from them. We have to respond to those complaints. This is an illegal mobile home park. The property outlined in red at one time had 4 mobile homes on it. It is not even an acre of land. It's 0.71 acres. The 4th use was abandoned a little while ago, and that first mobile home picture I just showed you was the 3rd one that was located there. So that's leaving, and this no longer will be defined as a mobile home park because we're not allowing any more to come in there. This is another illegal mobile home park. This is 2 properties outlined in red. They total 1.8 acres. They have 5 mobile homes on them. They're all sharing one well. And we've recently learned that that goes against the DHEC regulations. When we permit a mobile home, we check for septic permits. But DHEC says you can't have more than 2 structures sharing the same well. So mobile home parks, in accordance with our ordinance, it's the current definition is a parcel with space, improvements, and utilities for the long-term parking of 3 or more manufactured homes, which shall include services, utilities, and facilities for the residents. In our 1998 ordinance, it was defined as a dwelling mobile home park, a site with required improvements and utilities for the long-term parking of 3 or more homes. So for more than 20 years, Jasper County has defined a mobile home park as 3 or more units. Jasper County business license ordinance requires any person that rents out 2 structures or more or 2 lots or more to obtain a business license. Renting out houses and land for a profit is considered a business. And you'd be surprised to know how many people who rent out 2 units or more that don't have a business license in Jasper County. So the proposed amendment that we brought to you on July 1st, it's been a while since you've seen that, but the only change that we proposed was an age limitation not to exceed 20 years old. That was something that the Planning Commission has been considering for the past 2 years. In that ordinance, we were requiring pictures to assess quality of units. So we would require, if they were a used mobile home, you to provide us with pictures of the inside and outside so that we can make sure they meet the habitability standards, that they have windows, that they don't have holes to the outside, that there aren't holes in the floors. So that was the purpose in that. And then if you remember at the July 1st meeting, there were 2 ordinances that were presented to you. One was a staff recommendation, one was a Planning Commission recommendation. The only difference in those 2 ordinances, Planning Commission did want to allow a manufactured home as a second use, just like we allow for the single family dwelling unit on a lot of record. And staff asked that you confirm, and we use the word confirm because this is already our ordinance, to confirm 1 manufactured home allowed per parcel lot of record, regardless of the property size. And I believe this is what may have caused that sentence, regardless of property size, I believe may have caused some confusion. A parcel or lot of record could be a 1/4 acre. It could be 1 acre. It could be 2 acres. It could be 10 acres or more. So a few slides back, I pointed out, again, the minimum lot sizes in the residential zones, a 1/2 acre, and the community commercial zones, 1/2 acre, and the rural preservation is 1 acre. So if the property meets the land development regulations for subdividing property, then that is an option that the applicant would have. So I wanted to show some examples of how you could subdivide the property. This is one, we recently received an application on this one. And so the property outlined in red, immediately north of the outlined parcel is an access road. there is there is a legal access easement that's already been established years ago. The road is approximately 30 feet wide. The fire marshal inspected the road and determined it is an acceptable road. As you know, or you may or may not know, the fire code, certain length of road requires a turnaround. But in this case, the road goes all the way to the properties in the back, and it feeds out. You don't have to turn around because it comes back out on Pierceburg Road, or yeah, that's Pierceburg Roads. Here's another example of a property that could be subdivided. This is 4.9 acres. It's located on South Oakity Highway. So at the number 3932 is a manufactured house, and 3930 was a house, but it burned down earlier this year. So the applicant's interested in putting a manufactured house at 3930. It's not that we won't let them, but we did talk to them to see if they could subdivide the property. Because if you can subdivide, we want you to subdivide. In this case, it's her grandmother's land, and she feels that's not going to be a problem at all. They could share a driveway. She has access from South Oakity Highway, but she could make an access also from Cook's Landing Road. So she has frontage on 2 state roads. So this property could be subdividable. And even if she could subdivide it, she's one step closer to getting a deed in her name. Even if they don't do a deed now, you know, they could do one later. So now here's an example of a property that's not subdividable. As you can see, the property outlined in red, it's 1 acre, and it sits behind another property. There's no access easements on file. It's landlocked, and there is a mobile home there. At one time, there were 2. So it's a small access road. It's not sufficient for a fire truck or EMS, and they could lose minutes if they were called to try and save the property or life trying to get there. Article 9:3.6 of our Jasper County zoning ordinance, it says non-conforming buildings and structures exist and lawful at the time of adoption of this ordinance, which again is November 13th, 2007, or amendments thereto may be continued even though the building or structure does not conform to the dimensional or other provisions of this ordinance, subject to the following. Non-conforming residential structures may be expanded, enlarged, or extended, provided that the expanded area complies with the setback requirements of the district. So many people might think of that as it's grandfathered. Those type of structures we just talked about is grandfathered in. So this is a 5-acre parcel. It has 9 total structures. So we couldn't issue a permit to add another structure to it. But again, these structures are grandfathered in. If they wanted to replace one of those, they could do that. It just needs to be done within 12 months. This is an heirs property. It's 20 acres, and it has 20 structures on it. Many of the heirs property in Jasper County already have numerous structures on them. In this case, they would not be able to add to it, but again, they could replace any of those structures that's there if they wanted to upgrade to a newer structure, or, you know, forbid if they were to have a fire, it would be able to be replaced. So based on comments that we've heard, we are working to revise the ordinance that we presented to you on July 1st. And according to our ordinance, it does need to go back to the Planning Commission for their comment and their input and their recommendation before coming back to you. The revisions that we're working on at staff level includes increase in penalty fees for manufactured homes that are being moved illegally, penalizing movers and transporters that are moving homes without permits, formalizing the permitting process for manufactured homes in the zoning ordinance. We have the permitting process outlined in a checklist, but it's not in our ordinance. So while we're doing this, we just thought it would be extremely helpful to go ahead and get it put in there. And last but not least, we are working on some language to allow for an additional manufactured home, or maybe even more than one manufactured home, to be located on family property and used by family members. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, question. Just for clarification, Ms. Wagner, are we to understand that if a mobile home has been identified as being dilapidated, it cannot be restored unless it gets permission from the building department? That's
Correct. Yes. And in many cases, depending on the type of work, I mean, even the South Carolina Manufactured Housing Board requires certain professionals to do the work, and construction documents to, drawings, whether it's an architect or an engineer, to design the proposed construction that needs to take place to bring the manufactured home up to the habitability standards.
Okay, one other question, if I may, please, for clarification. If one had 5 acres of land, in effect, could they put up 10 mobile units?
They could if they go through the mobile home park process. So they would need to come in and prepare a plan for a mobile home park, come to the planning commission, get permission for that mobile home park, and then you need to work with a designer to put in adequate infrastructure, roads, stormwater, as part of our mobile home park ordinance or any type of subdivision ordinance. We would want you to put in some open space for the residents of that community. 3 or more manufactured homes make a mobile home park. So it can be done. It's just a different set of rules.
Thank you.
Okay, I would ask that we move on, since we're going to revisit this in the public hearing segment.
Okay.
And if we could move on, we could get our honored guests from the front row back to fighting fire or whatever, they're getting some rest. But this time I would recognize Andrew Fulgham regarding the trash fire. Recycling fire, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, thank you. I wanted to provide an opportunity to present a fairly brief chronology for you of events related to the Able Recycling Center fire. I know it's been a hot topic, no pun intended, for the last couple of weeks. And the county council is very familiar with this issue and has talked about it in numerous executive session meetings. But for the crowd's education, I want to go through all of the different steps that the county has been involved in since 2008.
All right. Let me interrupt you and ask you to introduce our guest.
Yes, sir. They are the grand finale to the presentation. We have we have 2 gentlemen here with us from the federal government. They're from the federal government and they're here to help, and we really believe that. The Environmental Protection Agency, we have Mr. Matt Hauser and Mr. Terry Tanner. And what I propose is, after I conclude going through the chronology, I'd like them to join me at the podium and perhaps give us a quick update of where they are, where they think they are, and perhaps answer any questions that council may have of you. In 2008, the facility began operating as a legal use as a concrete crushing recycling facility. It operated as such, and in 2013 and 14, using a county zoning certificate, Able applied to Department of Health and Environmental Control to become a recovered material processing facility. In 2016, the County Planning and Zoning Department determined that a portion of the property was being used for another business, a portalette business. They cited that business and they took that issue to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission then imposed new conditions for both businesses, including screening and restricting the area to be used for recycling. In other words, by permitting the additional business, they reduced the footprint of the potential Able site. In July 2016, Able had not screened the site as was directed and did not timely submit engineering plans. County staff became concerned with the height of the pile, and county staff then met with the city of Hardeeville, DHEC, and the owner and the owner's council. And specifically with the city of Hardeeville, because at the time, Hardeeville was providing the fire protection via contract with the county, and therefore their fire marshal was the legal authority in interpreting and enforcing the fire code. In July of 2017, upon visiting the site, there was zero progress made by the owner, and Jasper County officials became concerned about the combustibility of the pile along with the height of the pile. I believe along this time period, we'd had some small fires break out at the facility. We commissioned a volumetric survey of the site that was performed, and it showed that the pile reached its all-time highest height of 114 feet. And it was composed of 104,000 cubic yards. In August of 2017, Able Recycling was declared a nuisance based upon updated county ordinances adopted by the county council, and a mitigation plan was requested of the owner. From August 2017 through May of 2019, we wrangled back and forth. The mitigation plan was delayed for a time period during that time period. Due to the possible impacts of pending legislation. We reported to you that the state was trying to close loopholes in the existing state law that would provide some additional control for facilities like this. I'll remind you, there are 9 others we have been reported throughout the state that are in similar situations. That mitigation plan contains screening requirements, volume, height, and financial security requirements which mirrored the legislation. We later learned at the conclusion of that legislative session that there would be a delay in implementing the financial security portion of the legislation. Of course, that required a property owner who operated one of these facilities to have sufficient surety that in the event that the site closed, that they would be financially capable and responsible for clearing the site. We did achieve a voluntary agreement for Able to bring the height of the pile down, and during this period, the height was reduced to 60 feet. What we didn't mention here was, although the height was reduced to 60 feet from 114 feet, the overall volume, based on another volumetric survey, increased 26,000 cubic yards. So the pile came down, but it spread out. June 19, negotiations continued in the absence of the state regulations while Able requested a zoning certificate from the county for a May application to DHEC for a new application that DHEC had established. The county would not approve a zoning certificate because there was no mitigation plan. And DHEC subsequently did not approve the operational permit due to the lack of a local zoning compliance. Roughly 4 days later, the county was notified that smoke was coming from the trash pile. At that time, the city of Hardeeville was providing fire suppression. On July 1, 2019, Jasper County Fire Rescue assumed fire protection in the area, and Able was actively providing its own fire suppression at the site. County officials were concerned about the runoff from that fire suppression effort and contacted DHEC. County officials, DHEC, and other agencies, the EPA, through DHEC, created a multidisciplinary approach to address the issue with the site, which brings us a little more current here, July 1 through the 25th. During this time, there were numerous calls, face-to-face meetings with DHEC that prompted DHEC to bring in the EPA. DHEC initiated testing, and the results revealed that there was potential danger to the immediate residents. Able then abandoned its fire suppression efforts. DHEC issued an emergency order prompting county to declare a local emergency. Able appealed DHEC's emergency order. And in the absence, in the early portion of our teamwork, in the absence of having a plan to provide alternative housing for the nearby residents, the county made the decision to provide temporary placement to those immediately affected in that area. That brings us to current July 25 through August 15. While we were awaiting EPA's test results, all parties involved in the multidisciplinary efforts met, discussed the situation, and the county again extended living arrangements for another week. And then the EPA engaged with DHEC and have since mobilized, and the cleanup began roughly a week ago. EPA is on site and is involved in the extinguishment efforts. And Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to say that throughout this process, we've tried our best to facilitate the teamwork, tried to communicate with everyone as best we could over this bad situation, and tried to take care of the nearby residents as best we could. There was a lot of effort by staff in doing that. We appreciate your solid support throughout every step of it. Our chief always does a good job in emergency situations. Our county attorney did a Herculean job with DHEC and their legal counsel, coordinating the emergency response, and also battling with the Abel's attorney for the last 2 or 3 years. And Ms. Lisa Wagner voluntarily stepped out to be the communicator with the displaced residents, and I thought that was also heroic. She has a way of communicating that went over very well in that community, and I think that went about as well as it possibly could have in a bad situation. So having said all that and shared the chronology, I know you'll probably want to have some time to review that, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have with that timeline. But I would like the two gentlemen from the EPA to join me to just give you a sense of the work that is ongoing. This has been, for me, a tremendous opportunity to see the federal, state, and local government working together. And I'm just so very pleased that they've engaged, and I've had pleasure at least working with Matt for a few days. I have not met with Mr. Tanner yet, but I understand that efforts are ongoing. Would you gentlemen please join?
Briefing on our activities.
Yes, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Before I begin, I'd like to say that our work with Jasper County Fire Department has been extraordinary. And you really have a wonderful team in Chief Edwards and Deputy Chief Wells, and we are grateful for the support and the information that they provided during this response. So it's not easy to have a situation where the federal government has to come in and provide fire response and support, but the magnitude of this particular site necessitates that. We provided support to South Carolina DHEC at their request beginning on July 25th with air monitoring and sampling. We provided data in that response effort. In the beginning on August 9, we began 24-hour air monitoring in support of South Carolina DHEC's aggressive firefighting efforts in absence of the response that the responsible party could undertake. On August 16th, EPA assumed the lead role of that aggressive firefighting effort, and we are still in unified command with South Carolina DHEC and with Jasper County Fire Department. EPA removed 300 tons of waste from the site on Saturday, our first major day of operation. Landfill was closed on Sunday, so during Sunday we made sure that we did everything we could to get waste ready for removal on Monday, and to try to address any smoking issues around the site that either couldn't be addressed with water or any other means. Today we moved out 600 tons of waste, and that will continue daily. We're sensitive to concerns of the community, not only from the smoke, but from the traffic that our operations are causing. We're aiming for upwards of 100 trucks per day leaving the site during weekdays, and we are aware that that causes traffic and safety risk on Highway 170. We made sure that our trucks had a delayed day because it was the beginning of school, and we informed all of our truckers that The reason you're delayed is because you need to stay out of the way of school buses coming into the area. So we're trying to be sensitive to those concerns and needs as well. We've received an enormous amount of support from the business community in the area. And although they may be frustrated with problems that they've encountered up to this point, we've received, and we know South Carolina DHEC has received a lot of support on their end in making sure that we have a conduit of information, a place to stay. We've had business owners offer us free space to park our mobile command post, free business space to work out of, and that stuff helps. We have an incident command team of 3 EPA employees and command staff, 2 EPA employees providing public outreach. We have U.S. Coast Guard strike team, which we work with quite often, providing our safety support. We have our technical contractors. We have our large equipment contractors. And it is all hands on deck in making sure that we meet our objectives. Our primary objectives in this response is to extinguish the fire and to the best of our abilities, leave it in a condition to reduce the risk of reignition. I expect this project to take several weeks. We don't yet know what end date the project will have, but right now the EPA has committed $1.25 million to this effort. And with that, I could take any questions.
Okay. Chairman, I had a couple of questions, if that's okay.
All right, let me give Mr. Souls a turn, then I'll come back.
All right. I first want to say thank you for your agency's efforts in coming down here and playing the role that y'all have and being the lead on this cleanup. I've had several people ask questions over the past few weeks. One is the penalty for the business owner. Are they going to be charged or in any way be paying for any portion or all of this cleanup that's ongoing? That's my first question.
The answer to that question is really outside my wheelhouse, sir. I am just an emergency response. And so that would be addressed at the state and county levels, and any other penalties at the federal level are handled by a different part of the agency. And so while I am here representing EPA, I'm here representing EPA in that emergency response capacity only.
And then as far as the toxic fumes, what is the status on that as of today?
So the air monitoring that we have is primarily for particulates in the community. And we have a network of EPA sensors and DHEC sensors. DHEC has deployed sensors that have been running quite well near the site, and they've deployed a sensor to Okatee Elementary School. And those sensors provide live data that the public can view on the internet. We have sensors also deployed from close to the site to out to 1.5 miles. And those sensors are also reporting, most of them, that we have a live web map that is displaying that data. We're sharing that data, publishing to to the EPA webpage. In the last several days, the last 4 days, we have very good air quality that we're measuring in the area. Particulates are primarily to measure the smoke and anything that might be in the smoke. Our sampling data that we took on July 25th and then again confirmed a week later measured for a number of constituents, including formaldehyde, which was low to zero, and asbestos. We found no asbestos fibers in the air. We sampled for volatile organic chemicals, semi-volatile organic chemicals, and metals. And out of that, the one that we identified is a volatile organic chemical called acrolein, which was above an EPA removal management level. It's a level that we set. It's a generic guideline that we use for emergency response work. During the course of the response, another chemical that we identified was hydrogen cyanide that can be produced and released near the pile, according to different reactions that occur, and that's typically released during the combustion of plastics. Acrolein is a typical component of smoke. It could also be in tobacco smoke. We've provided information in public fact sheets that are being distributed on what are the exposure effects of acrolein and hydrogen cyanide. Those are near the site. Those samples were confirmed near the site above removal management levels, and the hydrogen cyanide that we're measuring is at the site, but we have meters outside the site, outside the fence line. And for the last 4 days, I'm proud to report that we have 0 detections of hydrogen cyanide, volatile organic chemicals, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, explosive gases, and good air quality and oxygen levels. So the meter that we have outside that fence line right next to those businesses that are still there, even though the residents have relocated, the businesses are still working. The meters that we have near those businesses confirm that that air quality has been extremely good for the last 4 days.
As far as the EPA's budget to see this project, to its end, are y'all are in it until the site is completely remediated, cleaned, and it's finished?
Well, I can't say that we can remove all the waste from the site, sir, but we've committed 1.25 million to the site right now, and our objective is to extinguish the fire and, to the best of our ability, reduce the risk of reignition.
So in saying that, you're also saying indirectly that it will not be a total cleanup of the site.
We will not be removing all waste from the site.
So we still have work to be done, and we'll have to figure out how we're going to accomplish that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the questions I have.
Brandon?
Yes. How often is your air quality tested?
So the EPA is producing air data summary reports every 12 hours, and we're releasing those to a network of response partners that are at the county and the state level. And those are being published to the EPA webpage. And those include a summary of the air monitors that EPA has deployed, as well as a graph of what those detections were. And they're in publishing to the webpage. We're going through a process of making sure that they get into the EPA record system so that they're fully vetted, and there'll be a permanent public record. The DHEC data that's being posted is available live online on their webpage. You can go view that particulate data. And right now you can see what those instruments are reading and reporting.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So my understanding is we might not can go to EPA web page to get the results of your testing
Yes, sir.
always, but on DHEC, they're including DHEC's report on the web page?
Yes, DHEC is releasing all the data that they're collecting from their air monitoring stations.
So each and every one has an opportunity to go to DHEC webpage and find out where we
Yes,
are
sir.
with the situation.
Yep.
Okay.
Councilman Etheridge, the county too, Jasper Fire and Rescue has been sending this information out with the website on Nixle for all of our residents. So if you have not signed up for Nixle, you can contact Jasper County Fire and Rescue to get that information so you can receive text. That's a very, very resourceful. The city of Hardyville does it, and many other government municipalities, counties, et cetera. But that's important information that we need to make sure we get out. And Shelley, you might want to put that in the paper.
Let me ask you something in the form of a statement, and you correct me if I'm wrong, just to save time. Did I understand correctly on our meeting on Friday that the hydrogen cyanide set off some personal safety monitors of the workers at half of the occupational threshold danger level, and that level, that the threshold tolerable, for lack of a better word, level of this in a workplace is 4.7 parts per million. Their safety monitors are set for half that, 2.3. They went off, eventually measured between 3 and 4 parts per million, but it never got as high as 4.7 parts per million. And you had one off-site measurement that was 0.5 parts per million. And then did I understand that the tolerable or threshold background level is 1 part per million? But that, as far as people just living around the area, it should be below 1 part per million.
The event that occurred on Thursday with the hydrogen cyanide was a response to data that was being collected with handheld instrumentation. And there were a number of instruments that were deployed in the area to measure hydrogen cyanide, many of which we were monitoring in our mobile command post remotely. But not all of the instruments that are utilized by the EPA and the contractors in the site were standardized to what those response measures would be. Although we discussed that regularly during our morning safety briefings, we had not yet come to a point where we had standardized what alarm and response levels would be taken to those instrument readings. There were reported measurements on a handheld instrument that suggested that the contractor egressed from the area. And in evaluating the data that were collected from that instrument and other instruments that were deployed, we showed that there were inconsistencies in an instrument that measured higher readings than others and could not be corroborated. There were businesses that were notified and they also egressed from the area. And in evaluating the data that we had and the circumstances around the site, we determined that that was an action that was taken as an abundance of caution or an overabundance of caution. It may not have been necessary, but the action was protective. And given the information or the incomplete information that we had at the time, that it was best to go with the safest option that is appropriate for public health. Again, I'd like to reach out and thank Chief Edwards and Deputy Chief Wells for their assistance in response to that event. Our response on the ground at that time was still in its infancy, and the EPA was in its boarding role to South Carolina DHEC, and the site safety procedures were still being developed in accordance with situations at the site. After numerous reviews of what happened in that situation, we've been able to come up with collectively a response standard to that type of detection and event. And not only have we exercised it, but we've executed it to make sure that we verified anything that we suspect might be at the site. And we've been able to have not only an adequate, but an outstanding safety review of the situations at the site, the gases that may be occurring there, the exposure to the workers, and also verifying that there are no exposures to the employees at the businesses nearby or the public. Like I said, we have a monitor outside of the fence line, and since Friday, we've had 0 detections of volatile organics, carbon monoxide, hydrogen sulfide, hydrogen cyanide, or explosive gases at that meter. 0 at all. And that meter has been running and calibrated regularly all day, all night.
That's good enough.
So with that statement, you are assuring us that the citizens are not at risk at all, health-wise.
I am assuring you that the citizens are being protected and their health is a concern of the response. So they are not at risk with the response efforts that are ongoing. The greatest risk at the response right now, which we are very concerned about, is the trucks that are entering and leaving the site. But the fire at the site does not present a risk to the employees that are working there. Any issue that we may encounter that could present a risk to the community, we will handle, and we have a procedure in place to verify any potential reading that we get, and we will notify immediately the Jasper County on-duty battalion chief to be part of the response effort in notifying the community of anything that we find.
Mr. Chairman.
We skipped Mr. Clark. You got any?
Nope. No, man. As long as the residents are safe.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Can you speak to
As long as the
stormwater?
residents are safe, I said. You're looking at me as if I said something wrong. I'm talking about the people back there that you all are protecting, and you have the monitoring station set up so it can show the amount of carbon monoxide, if there's anything there that's going to bring them harm, as long as you all have this under control and the people can go back into their homes and they are safe.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm satisfied.
Can you speak towards the stormwater runoff and what's taking place with that, is that your?
We have an effort in place to recover as much of the stormwater runoff we can that will be reutilized for firefighting operations, but we cannot guarantee that we can control all stormwater runoff. We are, again, in unified command with South Carolina DHEC, and one of the actions that they're going to be taking this week is they're in the process of developing and finalizing a water quality monitoring and sampling plan that will include stormwater streams both upstream and downstream around the site, as well as taking care of the groundwater and drinking water needs of the community. And those sampling monitoring efforts will be executed by South Carolina DHEC and shared with the Incident Command.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mayor, would you like to ask any questions of the gentleman from EPA?
I have one major concern that Mr. Saul brought up. It was my understanding that we were going to clean this site up. And if there's only, as the EPA is done, there's still going to be trash there. So there's still a risk of this happening again. Why is not this site being 100% cleaned up so that this doesn't happen ever again?
If you could enlighten us on that and the science under, as I understand it, there's an interplay with pressure and oxidation, but if you would be kind enough to address the reignition issue as well as any other environmental issues.
Yes, sir. So the reason that EPA is able to respond is because we are responding under CERCLA, nicknamed Superfund, Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act. And one of the components of being able to respond under that act is a response to a hazardous substance. And a hazardous substance is a very specific list. There's a difference between hazmat and hazardous substance. And acrolein and hydrogen cyanide fall under that hazardous substance list. But the release of acrolein and hydrogen cyanide are a component of the ongoing fire. And so once that fire is out and those are no longer being released from the site, then funding the response or the cleanup of the site using the funds from that act no longer apply.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not trying to drag this out, but I still got another question.
Okay.
And it goes back to, and I know this is a speculative answer, I would assume, coming from you, but when you guys stop, do you have any idea if it's going to be 50% through the process that you'll stop when this, you're no longer qualified to use those funds from that act? I mean, do you have any idea how far you're going to get?
We've requested support from the regulatory departments that have the technical knowledge on the design of these types of facilities. And one thing that they're going to be producing for us is an engineering design or a recommended engineering design of the amount, the volume, and the shape of material that can be left on a property of this size that will reduce the risk of reignition. So using the knowledge from that type of material, the size and the pressure that would be induced in order to alleviate that possibility. And the analog that they're going to be using for that is compost material.
I mean, I'm wondering if we need to call Congressman Clyburn and our other federal delegation members to see if we can have their assistance in trying to make this a permanent plan. I know the Act has guidelines for qualifications for y'all's resources, but we're one of the poorest counties in the state of South Carolina, probably along the East Coast. We need to get all the help we can get from the federal government while y'all are here. So just keep that in mind.
Yes, sir.
We'd all appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. And if y'all need to get back to work, we are not going to be offended if you slip out at any given time.
We really do appreciate y'all being here.
We did. Sure.
All right. Fulton, anything further on that issue?
No, sir.
All right. This time, I call for a motion to approve the minutes of April 15th, May 6th, May 20th, and July the 15th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
At this time, we have some presentations and proclamations. Chief Edwards, I do not see your firefighter honoree in the audience. Am I overlooking?
Mr. Chairman, no, you're not. I spoke to him earlier today. He indicated he would be here. Something must have come up.
What is y'all's pleasure if the honoree is not feeling well or what, is not available? You want to
Reschedule.
Okay. All right. In that case,
I'll get
we'll
with
go
him,
to
sir.
item B. And recognize Nikki Tomes. Did I pronounce that right? Or is it Tomes? Tomes, okay.
Hello, council. Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, my name is Nikki Toombs. I'm an area specialist with USDA Rural Development. I'm very happy to be here today on behalf of the Trump administration, our state director, Ms. Debbie Tuberville, the Community Facilities Program Director, Ms. Michelle Cardwell, and our area director, Mr. George W. Hicks Jr. I'm here today to present the letter of conditions for a community facility loan that has been approved for the Marsh Cove Fire Department, the new Marsh Cove Fire Department. The community facilities loan amount is $1,308,200. That's part of a whole project. You have a copy of the letter of conditions, and I would like to just touch the highlights, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if I may. The community facilities loan is proposed to be a part of the project. Our funds are going to be partnered with CDBG Community Development Block Grant that you have already received for this fire station in the amount of $500,000. We're really glad to be partnering with those grant funds to make this project possible. On page 2 is an outline of the project budget. The total cost, proposed cost of the fire station will be $1,808,200. Of that will be the $500,000 community development block grant of $500,000, and then our USDA Rural Development Community Facilities loan of $1,308,200. The community facilities loan, right now our interest rate is fixed rate at 3.5%. The proposed loan is for 30 years with 3 years interest only payment. The payment, once you get past the interest only payments, will be $75,693 a year for the remainder of the term of the loan. There's no prepayment penalty. Also, in the documents that will be signed today, after you vote to receive the loan, there is you're allowed, if the interest rate goes down between now and when you close the permanent financing or loan, you get the lower of the two interest rates. So the interest rate can never be higher than 3.5%, and it is fixed for the term of the loan and no prepayment penalty. We've worked closely with the chief and also the Low Country, the COG, in preparing the loan application. We appreciate their help, and also with the county in getting the information for the loan. So a lot of what's covered in this document are forms that either will be completed or already have been completed as part of the process. And I'd be glad to answer any questions.
I just got a comment, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you for working with us in the COG and the county. This fire station is so important to the people in that community and that it'll serve. It's something that has been on a wish list of many people for years. And there's been a lot of effort put into this. The community has played a huge role in this process, and some of the community members are here tonight that have made this possible. So it's been a group effort. So I want to thank you especially for what you've done to help us.
We're very glad to do it. We love fire. We love all our projects, but we especially like the fire safety and police projects.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Congratulations. We do have to take a vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you will have to take an official vote on the acceptance of the letter of conditions.
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to accept the letter of condition?
So moved, Mr. Chairman, we accept the letter of conditions.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, real
Yes,
quick,
sir.
if I may, again, Councilman Sauls talked about the community support. Again, there's been three ladies, I call the Marsh Cove ladies, that have been instrumental in
They here tonight.
getting the CDBG grant as well as helping us with this. And I just wanted to recognize them real quick. Ms. Barbara Batolas, if you can stand up, and Ms. Louise Rawlings. And Louise's sister, Priscilla Frazier, she's not going to be here, but they've been the backbone of getting the station built, so.
Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
I was very up with the Smart Cove fire station because all that garbage that you're taking from Chico is being dumped in Oakwood. And Oakwood landfill, you're not having to dump there. So focus is not.
This time I recognize Andrew Fulgham for a presentation to Kim Burgess.
Mr. Chairman, members of council, we come before you each year, and we're thankful that we have received a certificate of achievement again this year from the Government Finance Officers Association. This is the CUP Certificate of Achievement, and it goes to the individual that works to coordinate our what's called a CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I don't know how many years we've received this in a row. I think we're pushing 15 now, something like that. And I'd like to present this particular certificate to Ms. Kimberly Burgess, who has soon be recognizing her first year, right? Anniversary with the county, has done a wonderful job and gotten us through another stellar audit this year. Please join me in congratulating her for what she has done.
Congratulations, and thank you very much for what you do. Okay. At this time, we are at the stage of the open floor to the public. We also, in a couple of minutes, will have a public hearing on the ordinance relative to manufactured housing. It would be more orderly if the people who wanted to speak on that subject spoke at the public hearing. But I'm not going to tell you we won't hear from you, but does anybody, first of all, does anybody have anything they want to speak on other than mobile homes? All right, sir, I would recognize you. Come on up. And state your name for the minutes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dwight Hayward. My issue is, could Jasper County bring more jobs to Jasper County?
We trying.
Yeah, because it's kind of, rough for everybody going to Hilton Head, Bluffton is booming, and little Jasper is just, so I mean, if you guys could get other businesses to come to Jasper County so people won't have to travel so far, and that would be great. And one more issue I have is I live in Pineland, and the roads there are critical. I got whiplash talking right now because of yeah. But if they can do something with the highways, in Pineland, that would be really great.
We agree.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. And all right, anyone else that wants to speak on anything other than the mobile home ordinance?
There's a young man right here.
Yes, okay. I think you had your hand up first. So state your name for the minutes, if you would.
My name is Maurice Lawyer, and I have two questions. Just kind of piggyback off of what he was saying about bringing jobs to the community. My question is more so about the Fair Housing Act that you designated that month of April for the Fair Housing Act month. Given the fact that this ordinance is in question, and obviously people are going to have to find a way to afford homes here in Jasper County because their land is going to be cut, or you have to, whatever has to be done with this ordinance. But my question is there going to be information on loans, proper, mortgages and interest rates and things like that to help people in this community, learn about, smart lending and ways to not, get, kicked out of their homes because they can't afford, to build homes, more so by the mobile homes that they're bringing here into the community. And then secondly, what's going to be done about the crime in this community? Can the council do something to help support the sheriff department and police department with the crime rate that's happening in this community? Because jobs are not going to come here. Teachers are not going to come here. None of that's going to happen in Jasper County if our crime rate continues to escalate. So what does the council propose, or is there a plan going to be put in place to help support the sheriff and police in this community?
Okay, I know sometimes people ask what's called a rhetorical question, meaning it's a question they don't really expect an answer to. But
No, I expect an answer.
Can't answer questions in this forum because in order to do that, we would have to call for a motion and have a vote and have a resolution. So somebody will try to respond to that either generically in the council members' comments, or one of the staff may try to get.
Well, I can make it in a statement. Personally, as a community member, I'd like to see the county council, the sheriff department, police department, parents of this community work to rid us of the crimes that are happening in Jasper County so that we can get jobs and better education for our students and better teachers that want to come here so that we don't have these problems and so that we can afford homes in this community. That's what I would like to see.
I would caution you, people that talk like that tend to get appointed to things. So you better.
Thank you.
You're going to be on a committee in a hurry.
Well, I am the founder of the Legacy Foundation, and that's part of my mission to work with students so that they don't have that problem.
There you go.
So.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, in the gray blouse, you were next.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, the young lady back there.
Hi, my name is Ruby DuPont. I live off of 462. And yeah, I saw the fire of the trash burning, and they're moving it. Where are they moving it?
Okay.
Okay, that's right by us. So y'all moving out of Hardyville right into our neighborhood. Ours are big enough. We don't need more trash added in from another county, from another area. I mean, there's a lot of land out there with nothing on it. Why into a community? That's my question.
Okay, somebody will try to respond to that.
Thank you.
Good question.
Anyone else with a comment that doesn't relate to mobile homes or? Okay, at this point, we'll go to recognize Danny Lucas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here tonight to talk about two related issues. They're both resolutions regarding the U.S. Census for the year 2020. And I won't belabor the point very much tonight, but we're asking that the county council support the 2020 census in the form of this resolution, as well as agree to become a partner with the Complete Count Committee if you agree to form one, as well as other community organizations in the county, and also partner with the U.S. Census. As you may know, there's $675 billion that will be allocated in the 10-year decennial period from 2020 to 2030. And so it's very critical and important for South Carolina, as well as Jasper County and the other 45 counties, to receive their fair share of that $675 billion. And we won't be able to do that if we don't get a better response rate than we got in 2010. So the point here is that there was a 68% response rate to the U.S. Census in the year 2010. And that puts you at the 45th position out of 45 counties. And so we would hope that we can do much better than that in the 2020 census. And so we're asking the county council to establish an ambitious goal in the 2020 census of 83% participation, as opposed to the 68% participation that you got in 2010 and the 51% participation that you got in the year 2000.
All right, thank you, sir. And I hope the audience is paying attention, because not only does it go into the division of the billions, but perhaps more importantly, it goes into the reapportionment of the state and local and federal legislature. So you want your part of it, not just federal money, but also your political voice. Please cooperate with the census. Do I have a motion as to the resolution?
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept resolution supporting the 2020 census.
Second.
Mr. Lucas, could we do the two of them together? Another resolution authorizing the formation of a complete count committee?
All right. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Do that.
you can do that. I'd like to make just a couple of comments, though, regarding the complete count committee.
All in favor, say aye.
All right. Got a second resolution that, I'm not being rude, I just see all these people waiting to talk about mobile homes. I'm rushing you a little bit.
Mr. Chairman, we're just asking that the county council create the 2020 complete count committee and follow the directives that are included in the resolution. An 11-member complete count committee that will be jointly with Hardyville and Richland if they choose, or if they don't choose, then it'll be just severally with Jasper County.
All right. right, do I hear a motion?
I make a motion, Mr.
Do I
Chairman.
hear a second?
Second.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Andrew Fulgham, resolution supporting Congress bid for the 2025 Presidential Cup.
Mr. Chairman, that is it. I know you probably had time to read it, but it is a support resolution for their application to host the President's Cup in 2025, respectfully requesting the county council's adoption of the support resolution so we can send that to the appropriate authorities.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I so.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a motion, a couple of seconds, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
David Keller, a resolution to ratify the declaration of local emergency.
Mr. Chair, members of council, as you well know, because of the able contracting situation, DHEC declaring an emergency on August 1st. The following day, we thought it prudent to enact our emergency plan, operations plan, and have a declaration of a local emergency so that we would have the authority to move swiftly as needed, including arranging for temporary housing for the residents along Schinger Avenue. We did so. The chairman, under the authority, signed a declaration. We are asking that that you as the council ratify the actions taken by the chairman and the administration implementing that local emergency, which continues in effect at this point, while DHEC and EPA are on site.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, no. It's just a resolution.
Excuse me.
David Taylor, public hearing and consideration of a third reading of an ordinance amending personnel policies. This is what I call a housekeeping amendment, but give us the very short, abbreviated version of this, and then I will convene a public hearing.
As you noticed from the presentation by the fellows from EPA, you have to follow their guidelines to get money. This is a cleanup or ordinance to make certain that in the case of a natural disaster or other local emergency, we can qualify for the reimbursement of our emergency responders, first responders and others from FEMA. This just clarifies when our employees go on, I hate to say disaster pay, but that's basically what it is. We just actually had a dry run of it. What a dry run. We had a wet run of it during this past 2 weeks, and it's worked fine where it is. And so we're asking that this disaster pay procedure be approved by ordinance so we can modify our code so that whenever the time comes, God forbid, hopefully it's way off, we have another hurricane or a natural disaster like that, we can get full reimbursement.
All right, at this time, I'll convene a public hearing. Anybody got any comments on conforming the personnel policy to FEMA policies? Hearing none, I declare the public hearing concluded. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that this be the third reading of an ordinance amending personnel policy and procedure manuals relating to disaster pay and other matters related thereto in accordance with section 2-67 Jasper County Code of Ordinance.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now, Lisa Wagner, can anybody, is there anybody that needs to hear from Lisa again, or can you remember what she said 20 minutes ago? If not, I will, if we don't need to hear from Lisa again, I will convene the public hearing regarding the mobile home ordinance. And to that end, I have a host of names. I will start with recognizing James Williams. All right. recognize Alex Pinckney. For those of you who don't know it, Mr. Pinckney is a long-serving member of the Planning Commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
other county council members, I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. First, I want to clear up something because it was in the paper the last time I spoke to council in. It was a misconception with the 25 acres. And she cleared it up. If it's a parcel, a lot on one deed and not subdivided, the ordinance that was proposed, only one manufactured house will go on it. She said in her closing, as was recommended that this ordinance go back to the planning commission, that be looking at some provision for those that have heirs property that more than one manufactured house could go on that heirs property. As I shared at the last meeting, along the I-95 corridor, that heirs property, Jasper County have more heirs property than any of these counties on the I-95 corridor. We don't have an inventory of affordable housing. So until that time, I thank you for your consideration of looking at making some provision for those, because it's property, you attorney, you know, that doesn't happen easy. And we don't have an inventory of affordable housing. As you said, I serve, but I'm speaking as a citizen. There are some things in that manufactured housing orders will help the aesthetics of the county. But we don't want to make it so burdensome for the ones that don't have that income do it. And we spoke about it the last time. In areas like Robertville, Tarboro, Campaign, the financial institution, it's illegal, but they do it. They got those areas red line. You go to get money to build a house in those areas, your chances is slim. Even you have the ability to pay. Me and Ms. Helen Rivers, we spent 3 years studying affordable housing. We found out a lot of things. For the citizen and council, there's a lot of work to be done. And we need to make provision for affordable housing. And as of right now, what's proposed to us, we need to make some availability for the people struggling with. And last but not least, it's a proposal in there, 20 years. I have a problem with that because HUD and FHA financed manufactured house for 30 years. So it can even not be paid for according to the rule that we're proposing. It can't be moved. Another thing, at the electric tax sale, the county sell mobile homes. Then you can't move it. So citizens be aware, because a lot of them they sell at the tax sale is more than 20 years old. So there's something need to be proposed for that. So as a commissioner and council, we need to consider and put our heads together and come up with a good ordinance that will represent the people of Jasper County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Ted Moyd.
He's not.
All right. We heard from him earlier and he apparently left. Ms. Lee of Gadsden Street. Okay. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I couldn't read your name, but come on up and give us your name.
My name is Michael Lee. I'm here on behalf of the Manufactured Housing Institute of South Carolina. We're located in Columbia, South Carolina. We are the state trade association that represents the manufactured and modular home industry. Some of our members are here in the audience as well. We have members in nearby, not just here in Jasper County, but Beaufort County, Colleton County, Hampton County. And our members, we have about 400 members, and a lot of them are retailers, suppliers, manufacturers, installers. So I'm here on behalf of our organization. And just a couple things based on our member feedback and their experience and their knowledge. We feel that the 20-year age requirement that the council is proposing or considering wouldn't be the most effective way to address some of the issues that the county is facing. I had a really good meeting with Lisa a couple weeks ago when I came down and visited. Part of my job is to go around and talk to our local governments, counties, municipalities, and try to open up that dialogue when it comes to manufactured housing and modular housing. And we're here as a resource. Again, I would offer the same thing that I offered to Lisa before. Any sort of questions or issues that you guys are having, we'd love to just be here as a sounding board and give any sort of insight or help, any sort of service that we can provide. We'd love to be involved with that. But as far as the specific, the 20-year age requirement goes, we feel like there's three specific points that I just want to make. We feel like it would create a little bit of a moving target because any sort of new home that a person purchases, they would know that they have a 20-year, almost like an expiration date on their home before it loses all of its value. And having some sort of a set date, the way it's currently done, I think it's 1976, maybe updating that, but still having a set date would be a lot more beneficial rather than an age requirement that continues to move as we move forward. And going with that, my second point would be it kind of harms the homeowner who does maintain their home where it can last more than 20 years. And simultaneously, it disincentivizes others to take care of their home as well. So it kind of does maybe the opposite of what you guys are trying to do as far as the dilapidated and derelict homes that are in the county. And then my final point is just that it doesn't seem to include traditional site-built homes, but they can, just as we all know, become easily dilapidated and run down if they're not maintained as well. So there's some alternative solutions that we would, consider or love to, propose and be involved again, provide. But yeah, I just wanted to come and introduce myself and meet with all of you and just kind of let you guys know, what our association does and what our industry does. And yeah, we'd love to be, a part of the change that you guys are having in Jasper.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And we would very much appreciate alternatives to consider. If Lisa's your point of contact, that'll work good, and she can just disseminate it, because we are looking for a better idea, but we also want something that is fairly objective and not just in the eye of the beholder who happens to be the one looking at it. So if you would, in fact, you said this in the most effective way, if you could share your ideas, what would be the most effective way, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right,
Sounds good.
thank you. Prince Jackson. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, town board.
Yes, sir.
I just want to ask a question on the land that you put your trailers on the land.
Yes, sir.
We're having so much problem with the inspection. I'd like to know what type of land you have. What type of land do the inspector want for you to put your septic tank on? You got the trailer, you got the land, but you can't get a septic tank. It won't drain. Ever since I've been born in this world, water been draining off the land. Why would that cause a problem?
I think I can answer that without violating our rules. That is not a county function. That is a health department function, and we really can't Can't control that, can't really help you with that. I will say that there are some alternatives to the old-timey, ordinary septic tank that you could look into, but that's not a county function, and we can't help you as much as we'd love to. I'd also say that when you're dealing with the state health department, the best lot in Jasper County is, other than in Grace maybe, is probably about the equivalent of the worst lot in some other county, like Aiken County, say. So it's a challenge, and we feel for you, but we can't help you on that.
So who would I have to go to?
The health department at the old,
But they're the one who turning it down. I mean, they come and inspect it, and I mean, the ground was hard. I mean, you got high land, and I see some bad situation get passed, and the good ones, to me anyhow, seem like they don't pass it. And the building planning committees, they're the one I think over that.
No,
I have something to do with it.
The planning commission, you bring them a permit, and that's all you have to do. They don't go into whether the permit's a good idea or a bad idea. You are welcome to talk to staff if you want more information, but that's something the county can't help you with.
Okay. Well, I'd like to
Much
have
as
some
we'd
more-
like to.
I'd like to have some more information on that.
Yes, sir. All right.
Thank you.
Theodore DuPont.
Yeah.
Okay. Lafayette Weber.
Good afternoon to Chairman Johnson and the council. My name is Lafayette Weber, and I came here tonight concerned about the restrictions that we're putting on mobile homes and 1 acre land that we sometime only get the chance to own 1 acre in a lifetime. But I'd like to say this, that I was the first person that signed in here tonight, and I'm the last one to speak. Not only that, I want you to look at the citizens in here that should have already, we should have been spoken, and these people should have been home instead of in this refrigerated room tonight. Now, you might think it's funny, but it's not funny to me when you're discomforting our senior citizens on an issue like this. We are here tonight because we are very concerned about the future of our children and grandchildren. You know, everybody in this room has ancestors that's been paying taxes for many, many years. So now that the county is growing and targeted by all these foreigners and folks that's looking at us and the port coming and all this stuff, you want to restrict us? You want to restrict these families? Now is the time that they voted for you to look out for them. Thank you for your time. Oh, one more thing. You did a fantastic job because there was a lot of information that I did not know that I was able to learn tonight. Thank you.
Diane Bostic.
Good evening. My name is Diane Bostic, and one of the things is about the mobile homes is many years ago, the late Senator Clemente Pinckney, I was at a meeting where they had 1 acre with 1 trailer on that land only. And I was in the audience and he used me as an example. And he said, Miss Bostic, she has 3 daughters and 2 of them is twins. He said, now she has 1 acre of land. How do she divide her, if she wanted to give her twins property on that 1 acre, how do she determine which twin to give? He said, well, she has twin daughters. But then I realized that they have like FHA homes on lots, built on lots. So if they have those on lots, then why can't 3 trailers be on 1 acre of property? When even since he had, because he was fighting this, Clemente Painting, he was fighting this long time ago, trying to get at least 2 trailers on 1 acre. He was fighting this because I was here. And since then, I've seen people have a half an acre, have many trailers on a half an acre. And I have 1 acre, and I have the 3 daughters. So, still trying to determine, what I'm going to do. And the other thing is that also with this 20-year-old mobile homes, a lot of times people can take a mobile home that's maybe 10 years old, old, and they can take it and they can fix it up because you're not able to pay for a mobile home for 20 or 30 years, and that mobile home depreciates. It's not like a house. A house appreciates, but the trailer, I don't care how pretty and how great it is, and you do work on it, you do renovations on it, you do additions on it, it still depreciates. I know because I've done it on mine, and it's depreciating. So therefore, for a person who doesn't have a lot of money, you want to take a mobile home and fix it up. Not one that's raggedy, no, but one that, that's a good standing, that you can take it and make something out of it, and by room, do the roof, like people always do the roof first, and then the walls and 1 room at a time, and the other thing is, I'm glad that she mentioned about the 25 because that was in the paper. That's why, it say the 25 acres with the 1 trailer. I said, well, 1 trailer would get lost on 25 on 25 acres. So that was in the paper, and I was like, but that can't be so. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bostic. All right, Morris Lawyer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Chairman, board members. It's a privilege to come before you all to talk about something that I have some experience in. I used to own a manufactured home dealership in Estill, South Carolina. And my goal was to try to provide affordable homes for the people in my community. I did a financial statement for the banks when I bought the mobile home. And I used Hampton and Collington and Jasper County as a statistic to prove to them that I was worthy to own that dealership to provide my community affordable homes. And they took a chance and loaned a man like me out of the country off of a farm that kind of money. My son said to me when I was on my way home, said, Dad, Mama ought to be proud of you. She don't know what she got. People told you to provide as many homes as you want. And I'm talking about millions of dollars. So to say that, to say this, from the manufactured home standpoint, there are a lot of people here that children will not get a start unless they had a mobile home.
Yep.
They can't afford to build a stick-built home. They can't even afford, if you cut the property, to pay the survey, the septic tank, and the well. And when they cut the property, if you're not careful with the plan that you showed earlier, somebody's going to be landlocked. Because you already showed that on the plan, where somebody's landlocked, right? So if somebody's landlocked, back to the county. If somebody is landlocked, what do the county do to say, you must give that person access to their property. What we need is a pamphlet that states what you should do for the land situation if you insist that people cut it, what they have, and they can come to your office and pick it up. Pick that booklet up. Don't ask you, ask somebody and answer, well, they said, pick the book up and read it for yourself. Read it for yourself, find out what the rules and the regulations are, then move forward and dividing your property. I'm not suggesting that you let people or ask people to cut their property for mobile home. But what I'm suggesting that if you're going to ask them to do that, at least don't let them be blind. Let them know what the rules are. The gentleman talked about septic tank. Well, there are properties in Jasper County that will not pass septic. Has nothing to do with the county. Has to do with DHEC and the health department. You talk about earlier houses being moved into the county from Beaufort County that is too old and dilapidated, can't be placed in Jasper as a dumping area. That's what they call this, a dumping area, those old homes from the mobile home lot, right? The mobile home parks, a dumping area. Jasper County, they have relaxed rules. You have someone in your county that says you have to have an inspection before you get the lights put on your house. So how are they gonna live in it with no light? So let them follow the rules. If you don't pass it, they can't get light on. You don't need to put that in the rules, it's already there. So if somebody do, then you find that person and find Pebble Electric, because they put the light on. Find SC&G. They put the light on without your approval. The house could have caught a fire, and people could have got burned up. Somebody need to be held accountable. And they're in your county. All I want to say to you is it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. And we don't have to landlock people. We don't have to put restriction on people's home where they can't buy a home after 20. My mortgage is over 20 years. Well, after I paid for my house, I got nothing. This is what happens, you all. The HUD, the housing, and we got somebody here from the housing department. He could tell you, in the 70s, they weren't making zone 2 homes. So they started making zone 2 homes and they upped the standards of homes. If you have a zone 2 home made after that period of time, your house should not have a limitation on it. Your house meets the requirements. Your house, and she talked about the HUD standards. If your house meets HUD standard, why give me 20 years to live in it? And it took me 30 years to pay for it. That doesn't make sense. So all I want to do is let's do smart business. If you know somebody bought a home and it meets the HUD standard, take the limitation off of it. Don't give them 20 years or 30 years. They work hard enough, and as soon as they got it paid for, you tell me it ain't no good. So that, I'm just saying, because I passed the South Carolina test for a licensed dealership. I understand those regulations. So I'm not saying what somebody told me. Yes, sir. I'm just saying to you, don't get caught up in that because it hurts a lot of people and we can't afford that. Thank you for your time.
All right. Ms. Clark has a comment on that. You go ahead.
No, I was just saying to Mr. Morris, that's not on your home that you have here. If you bought a trailer and you brought it to Jasper County, it can stay 100 years. If you're living in it, that 20 years is if you go out there and you buy something that's not fit and want to bring it into Jasper County. That has nothing to do with the people who already have their trailers. You can stay in your trailers forever. That's not what the ordinance is saying. So let's get it right. So let's understand it. Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Are you saying that if I bought a home from Hampton County and it's 20 years old, I cannot bring it to the county, right?
If it don't have wheels on it, it don't have windows in it, it don't have a roof on it, you can't bring it in.
Okay.
Yeah, she ain't.
Do I have permission? I don't want to be rude.
Not be rude, tell me this group over here be rude.
Do I have permission?
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Go ahead. Your question was, if you brought it in from Hampton County?
Yeah, we don't want to mislead anybody.
Yeah.
When I was talking about the 20 years, I'm saying that if I live in Hampton County and I got a home that's 20 years old, I'm going to move to Jasper County. I should be able to bring that home here.
If it's a movable condition.
Well,
mobile home is a movable condition because you put wheels and axle back on it. If it's 20 years old, you can put it. But the question that the rule will not say if it's a movable condition, would it? And that's why I want some clarification, because if I live in Hampton County and I decide to take my home down because I sold a lot of home in Carlton and Hampton County, if they decide they want to take it down and move to Jasper County, for instance, because got a relative that they want to move on their property, and they had the house for 20 years ago. Can they move it to Jasper County? And the difference that I was trying to point out to you, Ms. Clark, was that the HUD regulation that specifies the condition of these mobile homes after a certain year made it eligible to move in a Zone 2 area. And if it meets those requirements, they should be able to move. That's all.
Yeah, we're gonna take that into consideration, but we just don't want them to think that if they're in a trailer and they're here, in 20 years, they got to get out of it. And I'm hoping, praying, and trusting, if somebody have a trailer and they got children coming, I hope we will be able to better our lives and get something better somewhere down the road, because like Maurice said, we're gonna bring some jobs. We're going to bring some jobs. People are going to be able to work, and people are going to be able to live better, even better than what they're doing now. And we had a workshop today at 5:00 on affordable housing. We had one person to attend.
All right. Dennis Beach.
Just go on the internet, read the newspaper, go on Facebook.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, council members, I think most everybody knows me. I'm Dennis Beach. Appreciate the opportunity to come speak to you tonight. Appreciate all the hard work and all y'all done all the years you've been doing it. I know it's a big job, thankless job, but you do a good job at it. But let me say this, I'm not against mobile homes. I used to live in one myself. Now, what I do have privy to that I'm not fond of is I come to the county council about 10 months ago and said we got a problem in Perrysburg. And we've got, Lisa's been working on it, but we've got a mobile home park or subdivision. We can't figure out what it is, but it bothers me today that we got 5 mobile homes on a small parcel of land that's not from a resident person around here. It's a developer that came from Hilton Head, I believe it was, or wherever he came from, but he's not from here. But anyhow, he's in a sense, he's circumvented the rules and he's built a trailer park, as I see it. Or if we're gonna call it subdivision, it doesn't meet the rules of subdivision. And there's a lot of things that, what I'd like to do, because I know everybody's tired, I'm tired, we're ready to go home. I could go into a lot of different issues, but I know I feel like it don't meet the rules of a fire truck being able to go in and turn around. You know, there's some driveway issues. There's a lot of issues. I was on the planning commission for 8 years here in Jasper County, and I was on the planning commission in Hardyville for 3 years. But what I would like to do is invite each one of you individually or collectively to come to Perrysburg. And we did this once before, but we were here 10 months ago asking for y'all's help. And I feel like we haven't moved farther enough along, because today, when I was at this trailer park, they got power. So once they got power, I don't know if we can do anything, but I'm asking y'all again, please come help us. Please come take a look at it. I'll be happy to meet with you. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. But I do have one other thing real quickly, and I could have got up earlier. Didn't have anything to do with trailer park, but I was gonna cover them both together. We've got a real problem with flood insurance. The property that I used to own in Puresburg, we developed that property in 1986. We built nice homes out there. We paid a lot of taxes, and we made a nice subdivision. It's being destroyed. But the property, the flood insurance on that property just went from $500 a year to $15,000 a year. That's right. We just got a letter on it, and we're gonna talk about it. But y'all got an issue that I just received a county letter that the flood insurance, the flood laws are gonna change in October. But we need to talk about that because I've got it. And Puresburg is 17, 18 feet at sea level. The red light in Hardyville is 10 feet. So I think we got it wrong. But I do think we need to address both of them issues, and I'll be happy to meet with anyone, anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Adolph Gregory. Okay, thank you, sir. Donald Sheftel.
Good evening, Councilman, Chairman Johnson, and all the councilmen. We thank you for this opportunity to appear before you. I stand before you opposed to the proposed amendments made unto you regarding the manufactured housing. The majority of people in Jasper County do live in poverty, which I'm sure all of you are aware of. And I don't believe you all want to do anything that will hinder them from actually having housing. And you want to do whatever you can to help promote housing within our county. The first proposed amendment prohibits relocation of manufactured home more than 20 years old. I've heard comments about other counties moving it from other county. The proposed amendment, I have a copy of it. It does not state anything about moving from another county. It says that it prohibits you from moving a unit that is 20 years old to another location. So that includes units that are in this county. Secondly, manufactured homes that are 20 years old, you have some people that have worked on these units and have transformed them into units that are actually over 20 years old, have been transformed into manufactured homes that looks better and are in better condition than units that are 10 years old.
Amen.
And yes, and I believe you don't need to look at the age of the manufactured unit, but you need to look at the condition of the units. Take that age off of it and look at the condition of the units. Also, the second proposed amendment, no more than one manufactured home, regardless to the size of the lot. Regardless to the size of the lot. And when the lot, it does go into acres as well too when you're dealing with lots. Now, I've been told that it can be subdivided, but the wording of what's being proposed to you all has no statement at all about subdivision. The wording of it is just basically says that only one manufactured home, regardless to the size of the lot. Again, regardless to the size of the lot. Whether I have 5 acres, 7 acres, regardless to the size of that, it still fall into that bracket. Something else I want you to know, in that same scenario, if I have a structured home and I have a manufactured home on 1 acre lot, and if my structured home burned down, under the proposed amendment, I would not be able to put a manufactured home on there if I so desire in the place of my structured house that's been burned down. Why? Because a manufactured home is already on that lot. So that's something you need to consider as well too. I believe you as Councilwoman need to table all of the amendments that have been presented before you until a better proposal could be brought before you as councilman. I believe you need to table that, and you need to look at whatever the county councilman can do to help bring in affordable housing for the citizen of Jasper County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reverend Shefter. Thank you.
Reverend Thomas McClary.
Thank you, Councilman. I think most of my questions has been answered, but I would like to say that are you trying, does this audience that you have trying to put the mobile home business put them out of business? Because here's the case. Most people in Jasper County are living in mobile homes. Why? Why are they living in mobile homes? Well, they cannot afford stick-built homes. That's why they are living in mobile homes. And if you're going to restrict it because of septic tanks, are you going to put plumbing all over the county? No, you can't afford that. You've been fighting this problem ever since I was on council. And there's no end to it. And I don't know how you're going to fix it up. But try to realize that we got to have mobile homes because we cannot afford stick-built homes. So thank you, and may God bless you, and try to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Rev.
Doug Cook.
Good evening. Thank y'all. I'm Doug Cook. I got a few things. One thing that I don't think y'all have taken into consideration is people got mobile homes in these trailer parks that they actually own a home trying to buy their own piece of property. Well, if I'm renting a lot and I got my mobile home there and it reaches 20 years old, it's done. I can't move it to a piece of property that I bought because it's got restricted. Then the owner of that land can start jacking my rent up till he puts me out of my own house. So I think y'all need to take that in consideration. And like Mr. Pinckney said, some people building houses now, I know 2 people, they won't be able to sell them. The third is on a 20-year mobile home and older in this county right now, what's the tax value on that a year? What do y'all get total? $1 million? $2 million?
No.
Huh?
It ain't near that.
I mean, I don't know how many mobile homes in the county. I know what people I know pay, and I can tell you about 3 or 4 people, it's about 15, 16,000. So my thing is right there. If you pass this 20-year ordinance, you can kiss that tax revenue goodbye because a 20-year-old home just became useless, not worth $1 in this county. You can't tax it. You fairly cannot tax it. Now, this is one of the poorest counties in the state, as y'all said, with one of the higher paid county councils in the state. Something to that, isn't it? Now, younger people can't even get you can get a start easier with a mobile home versus a home around here. Right now, the base home in this county, probably if you're lucky, is what, $120,000 if you can find one? Now you take a young couple, small child, $15 an hour, they're gonna make on Hilton Head. You're not making that here. Trying to make a living for those kids they got. And if they're fortunate enough, and they're gonna have to have some type of decent car, but they're gonna be struggling getting back and forth to work. You need to take that into consideration. And then the last thing here is a simple solution. I realize now it's 76 miles, but I thought it was 78. If anything's in the county now from 78 up, you should be able to move it. Administrative, there's nothing older than a 94 to be brought into the county because those are federally guidelines going to mobile homes. So 94 on up would be fine. I personally have a 98 double wide with a lot of size. And some of the new construction I've seen around here, I take that thing any day of the week. It's built better. I've built some things in and done better myself. As far as interior pictures of a home you're buying, that should be irrelevant, because if I buy it and fix it up, that, with my income, that would be my business once I get it home. The main thing you should make sure is not a fire hazard to catch you on fire when you do your building inspection. Cut my power on so I can start working on it. If you want to come back when I'm finished with that, come on back, hopefully, to give you more power. And my last thing to know about out of town, as you said earlier, Ms. Clark, that they come to you, y'all stuff comes from the planning commission. Okay? Then Mr. Johnson said y'all are approached by people. So y'all contradicting yourselves on that.
No, it comes from the planning commissioner.
Okay, you said that. Mr. Johnson said they were approached by someone. So who goes to the planning commission?
When the issues of public concern come up, the planning commission takes up those issues, or we ask them to take up those issues. The two are not exclusive, so that's not contradictory. It's a public welfare situation, and Mr. Pinkney's group has worked on it and thought about it and addressed it, as has this group.
Well, I do realize that there are some places around here people are trying to pack some on, and I get that. But like even Ayers property, you could ruin that for years for people that's messing with that. I don't know nothing about Ayers property, I've never messed with it. But I know a lot of people that live. It's just, they need to sit down and really think it out. And I'll be glad to go to council with the planning commission and help us some ideas, I'll sit down with them and I'll show them all the group with it.
Good. All right. I declare the public hearing closed. I hear any council member comments, motion?
I make a motion that we table the second reading of the ordinance.
Can't hear you.
Mobile home.
Henry, talking to the microphone.
Talking to Mike.
I make a motion that we table the second reading of the ordinance. We've heard all of the public comment, and now we get together with the planning commission. I hope that this council and the planning commission can get together and come up with something that would be acceptable to the people. You're not going to satisfy every person.
Nope.
I'm sorry, you cannot satisfy every person. But we want to do what is right for the people in this county, for as many of them as we can. So I make a motion that we table the second reading.
Second.
All right.
To be correct, Mr., it should be tabled to a time certain, which I would suggest until we get the recommendation back from the planning commission.
Yes.
Yes, until we get it right. Yep. Whether it's a month, 2 months, whatever. We've been working on this thing since 2017. And y'all just got upset.
If I may, I would just like to point out, and Mr. Cook just did touch on it, but as far as the mobile homes meeting HUD standards, the HUD standards were adopted in 1976, but they were not designated with a wind zone until 1994. So Zone 2 designation never came into play until 1994. And then I think there's a misconception that this ordinance is going to ask you to subdivide. There's nothing being proposed today or yesterday that's any different than it was 10 years ago. So you can't come in and put 10 mobile homes on 10 acres of land today. You couldn't do it yesterday. And the same thing as far as even having 2 on an acre of land, you would have been required to subdivide. So I just wanted to point that out, that this ordinance isn't attempting to do that. It's not changing anything to do with the subdivision, so you're not being asked to do that. And as far as landlocking, we do have land development regulations that when you subdivide, you do have to meet those. There has to be an access so that no property is subdivided. It has to be a legal access easement, and it also has to have a roads of some sort that the fire department can serve you and your property, because they want nothing more than to save your property from a fire or save your life if you need EMS
Well, I think somebody brought it up that we need to make sure that they have an access. The county cannot.
Our land development regulations do that. So you would not be allowed to subdivide if you can't meet that.
And,
Who would vote?
did we go for the motion?
We got a motion and a second, but we haven't voted yet.
Yes.
We don't have a second yet.
I second.
But,
Dr. Brantley seconded it.
Okay.
We had already, the council, see this tonight, we've been here since 6:30. A long time. 5 o'clock. The council had already decided that we were going to table this issue because there were more study needed to be done. All it took was a simple phone call to the administrative office and administrator office or some of the council people, and they could have told you we was going to table it because we needed to work on it. And a lot of you had valid points. The same thing we have already discussed practically, that we don't want to put people outside. We want people to be able to live, and we want them to remain in Jasper County. But affordable housing is one of the reasons why people leave Jasper County and don't come back, because there's no place for them to live. And I'm going to apologize for one of the comments that was made using the term foreign people. We all foreign. So please accept my apology. Thank you. Let's carry this motion. I recognize Dr. Anderson.
All right. We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. That matter will be returned to the planning commission. This time I would recognize Chief Frank Edwards relative to purchase of a ladder truck.
Mr. Chairman, you want to wait a second until?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay.
You got a big voice. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, members of council, I'd ask for your approval tonight to purchase a ladder truck as part of the FY 2019 budget amendment that was previously authorized by you at a cost of $139,000. The unit we would like to purchase is a 2000 model Central States HME ladder truck that's 104 feet tall and has a basket on the end. The unit has approximately 65,000 miles on it. By purchasing and obtaining a ladder truck that will help us in our ISO rating. And we feel it's important that we can use it in the commercial areas of the county, north and south.
Thank you, sir. Do I hear a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Kim Burgess.
Thank you.
Jasper, debris management proposal.
Good evening, Chairman and council members.
I think we've read it, so give us the short version.
The short version is that we would like the council to approve the proposal provided by Crowder Gulf to provide disaster debris management and recovery in the case of a natural or man-made disaster, primarily hurricane.
Okay.
I make a motion for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, and, pardon me, and to enter into a contract with Crowder Gulf as well. So I don't have to bring it back a second
For
time.
approval and also to enter into the contract.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Kim Burgess, Standing Road contract.
Yes, sir. I have a Stiny Road. This is for the construction of the fire station at Stiny Road. The council approved acceptance of the bid on May 6th at the May 6th meeting. And tonight I would like, I'm asking that council approve, asking for council's approval, I can't read my writing, I'm sorry, to allow the county administrator to enter into a contract with IP Builders to construct that fire station.
All right. Everybody looked at the contract. I hear a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I hear a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Kim Burgess, execution of master service agreement with Tetra Tech. Inc.
Yes, sir. This was approved by, the request for qualifications was approved by council at the June 18th meeting. This company will monitor the company that cleans up the debris after a hurricane. FEMA requires the company, the contractor, and then a monitor. So this would meet the FEMA requirements. And this contract or this service agreement would only be activated when we had a hurricane or something that needed to be monitored. So I'd like your approval to have the county administrator sign this agreement as well.
Do I hear a motion?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Andrew Fulgham, approval of position description of code enforcement officer. I think council was provided with that description. I assume we've all looked at it.
Yes. It's challenging.
Yes, sir. It's a new position that you created with the adoption of the budget July 1 under the Sheriff's Department. The HR and the Sheriff's Department have crafted the job description. Technically needs your approval of the job description so we can get to the hiring.
All right, do I hear a motion to approve the job description?
I'll make a motion that the approval of the position for the code enforcement officer be approved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. This time, we're to the item F, consideration of council by appointing 2 members of the library board, and there apparently are 2 applicants.
Alcea
You can get
Hamilton.
one lesson here.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that these 2 applicants be appointed, Ms. Williams, Pamela Williams, and Ms. Alcea C.
That's
Hamilton,
Lisa.
be appointed to library board.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consideration by council of appointing minority vacant at-large, non-elected position of Blue Country Council of Governments. There's
Danny Lucas.
This one,
a suggestion of Danny Lucas.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion that we select Danny Lucas to that board if he accepts.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Councilmember.
Old business and council members' comments. I'll start with Mr. Sauls.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Just want to thank everybody. What? Yeah. Just want to thank everybody for taking time to attend our meetings. It's good to see a room full of people who care enough about our home and what's going on to show up and attend and sit here for a few hours and have a good discussion. A lot of good information was presented, a lot of good ideas. A lot of people had input, things that were taken into consideration. I'm glad that Mr. Alex Pinckney's here from the Planning Commission because this is going to be pushed back into their hands. They are the recommending body as to what goes on with zoning and planning in our county. So I want to encourage everybody to be at your next Planning Commission meeting.
Amen.
That's where the same information that was presented tonight needs to be presented to that board. That's where that needs to start at. That's where that process begins. And once they formulate a plan, they present it to council for consideration. But we rely heavily, if not 100%, on the Planning Commission's recommendation because that's their expertise. So I want to encourage you to call your Planning and Zoning Commission members, talk to them, give them the same information we heard tonight, and let's work on this to try to formulate a plan that benefits everybody involved. I see Sister Robin Mervin out there, and I'm going to call Robin out because quite often she's called my phone about her road in front of her house. Okay? That used to be Moultrie Plantation. The reason that road is the way it is because that property was developed with no rules or regulations in place, and now we in a mess. I mean, you can't get down the road when it rains. You can't put public property, our equipment on a private road to clean the ditches. We got emergency situations where we need an ambulance to be able to get in, a fire truck to be able to get in. That's all because things weren't in place that we're talking about putting in place tonight. We got to formulate a plan that's going to blanket the county, and Councilman Etheridge said it earlier. It's not going to make everybody happy. You can't please everybody. That's just that's just the nature of what we're dealing with. But I give you my word, we're going to try our best to do that. But your information is important. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Yeah. The same here. It's a pleasure to see people. But we want you to come to council meetings other than when you think it's going to be a big blow up or something. We want you to come. If you all were coming to council meeting on a regular basis, or even going to the planning commission meetings, because they have 3 readings on this stuff before it comes to us. We up here doing our best. And some of you, not all of you, some of you come and try to beat us down in the mud. And y'all know Barbara Clark. Now y'all know I ain't gonna take but so much, and I'm coming back at you. And that's what a lot of people don't like about me. I'm not gonna take it sitting down. And I'm not gonna always say that I'm right. Tell him, Mr. Lawyer, I'm not the first one to say when I'm wrong. Amen. Tell the truth. And I'm gonna take my time tonight. I want to recognize our fabulous superintendent who is here with us, Dr. Anderson, and one whom we are supporting 100%. They ask us, stand up, Dr. Anderson, let them see you. Some of them don't know you. Stand up. Let's give our hand. Stand up, turn around, let them look at you. Let them see how pretty you are. Stand up, let them see. A young woman with a lot of energy. And regardless of what the State Department tried to do, and some of the board members, we're going to stand behind Dr. Anderson because the devil is a liar, because she pleads the blood of Jesus, and she is for these children of Jasper County, and we're going to see it through. I'll be so glad when Tesco's come out. I want to see what you got to say then. 1 year and July, August. 2 months she's been here. And some good things has happened. It's all about the children. And I want you all to go by the schools, visit the schools, pat the teachers on their back and let them know what a great job they're doing. Yeah, we still got some weed in there we need to chop out. But if they don't work, they're going to be gone. Because we want to know what's happening with our money. How many millions of dollars we put in the school system? Mr. Andrews? Mr. Andrew? Fulton? How many millions we put in the school district?
Hundreds of millions over the years.
Oh, yeah. Millions. And we're not going to let our money go in vain. So those of you who are here, pass the word and let them know. If they come for Dr. Anderson, they're coming for us, and we ain't going to have it. Amen. I don't preach.
Dr. Bradley?
Mr. Chairman, since our last meeting, I attended Saloco meeting in Hardeeville. I attended the South Carolina Association of Counties, where it was a great opportunity for networking. And on last Saturday, I had the great opportunity to speak before the NAACP banquet audience. Thank you, sir.
I don't know. Mr. Etheridge?
I probably attended 10 meetings since our last meeting here. And I have answered my phone. It is about red. It gets so hot. And I know the majority of the people sitting out tonight, and they know that if they want to call me, you can call me anytime you want to, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. If I don't answer the phone, I will call you back. I will call you back. And we will talk. But it takes talking to make things right sometimes. And I have said this 1,000 times since our last meeting. We've had one reading of this ordinance. Then we have a public hearing. And that's with every ordinance. That's with every ordinance. We have 3 readings. We have one reading and then a public hearing. Come to those public hearings if you don't think it's something that we gonna pass right, like you did tonight. I expect y'all to come back next month and tell us what a good job we're doing now. Y'all come on back. Oh, I do want to introduce somebody myself. A lot of you probably don't know Mr. James Williams. Would you stand up, please, sir? He's the new director of Beaufort Jasper EOC. All right. And he has made some changes since he's been there. A lot of you know Mr. Leroy Gilliard, but now we have a new Mr. Leroy Gilliard, James Williams. All right. And if you will come back another night, we'll give you a chance to say something. Thank you, James.
We want to remind them of the Pocatello Festival. That's going to start up Thursday evening.
Morning.
No, yeah, Thursday morning for the breakfast. And then Thursday evening for the kickoff. And then Saturday, the parade and all the food and all the trucks and all of that. And 7 o'clock, the 10 p.m., they got the Carolina Soul Band. And honey, I'm going to be there dancing. So if y'all think you can outdance me, let's come and try it.
Okay. I don't have any special comments. I've been, not surprisingly, whatever.
Firefighting.
Yeah, we've been dealing with fires and ports and various things, and I can tell you that when we have these public hearings so we can get information, but we also get information day in and day out, almost like breathing it in with the air. And I can promise you, nobody up here lays awake at night thinking, how can I make people miserable? And then I come, it doesn't, that's just not the way it is. So we welcome your input and suggestions and information, and it doesn't get ignored. Sometimes, particularly if it has to do with money, it's not ignored, but it's not acted on, because everybody wants more services and less taxes, and that is, we're going back, I believe it was the first Mr. Lawyer that spoke about jobs. I guess that's what we spend our time on more than anything else. And with jobs, that usually means a diversification of the tax base. And that's the only way we ever going to lower your taxes. We can't spend less, because y'all can look at this budget all day long and you're not, when I say this budget, the one we passed in June, and you're not going to find any fat. If you do, it won't amount to a thimble worth. So y'all keep us informed, and we'll do the best we can to make everybody happy, even though that's impossible. Keep in mind that when we pass an ordinance, we don't have but one spoon, and we've got to feed everybody out of it. So y'all have a great night, and I appreciate you coming. This time I call on the administrator for report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I know the late hour. I'll try to move through these items quickly. One, unexpected correspondence received today, which is a good one. We received a grant offer for Phase 4 of the Richland Claudine Airport Expansion Project. It's a substantial portion of Phase 4 construction of the terminal apron and the terminal access road and the related utilities. The grant offer is for $3,502,513. Of course, that would be 90% of the grant. Total grant, $3,852,765. County would be responsible for 5% of that, for $175,126. I'd like to ask the council to consider accepting the grant offer from the Federal Aviation Administration, and also authorizing the county council chairman, the county attorney, and the county administrator to execute any documents associated with accepting that grant.
Mr. Chairman, I so move we accept the grant and authorize the county administrator and staff to take proper procedure for that to happen.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now back to the actual printer report. I did want to report out on the non-payment for conducting Hardyville election. You may remember that issue. We were approached by Ms. Janine Bostic, Director of Jasper County Election and Voter Registration, about the election that was held back in November 6th of 2018. The county conducted that election for the city as per the ordinance that the county council adopted. In that ordinance, it requires the city to pay for the portion of the election work that's done for them. She sent a bill on December the 14th and had some inquiries about why the bill was so high. The bill was $3,982.63. Sent repeated requests for payment and had no response. So I contacted the city manager and asked if he would please kindly pay the bill. I received a nice letter back from Mr. Simbor saying that they did not expect such a large bill. And apparently in discussing it with Ms. Bostic, there really was no agreement or understanding as to what they would be paying. The letter further stated that this was a joint election, and the city's position is that if an election is held in conjunction with a federal, state, or county election, then the city would not be responsible for payment of anything other than the cost of publication of notice of the election. So I don't understand that logic, nor was I part of any of the discussions early on as to what the election would cost. So I'm going to suggest that they get with Ms. Bostic and try to clarify that before I come back to you and give you a suggestion about whether you should continue the ordinance as you had it in providing the elections for the city or not. And then the final item is a newspaper publishing issue. I'd like to ask the county attorney to provide an update on this issue. We reported to you that we've had some issues, and he has some more information for you on that.
I'll be real brief. You might recall that back in July, I had reported that we had had a couple of instances of legal publications not being put in the paper in a timely manner that can affect our notices of public hearing, getting people in, and affect that. I was just recently informed that in regards to the Marsh Cove grant application that we received, again, there had been, not from us, but from LCOG, their ads weren't primarily printed and they had to delay it for 35 days. I'm just going to request that perhaps the chairman, on behalf of the staff, escalate things a little bit and talk to the editor about the issues so we can address these, because it's most important that the public knows in a timely fashion of our public hearings, so that we can have the type of participation we had tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
And it's not just important that the public knows it, it also goes to the validity of our actions.
That's correct.
That's right.
we're blessed with a wonderful reporter. But we can't let that interfere with our duties under the state law. And so I'll follow up on that.
Mr. Chairman, unless you have any other questions of me, that concludes my report this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask a question whenever it's appropriate.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Fulgham, as far as the elections for the city of Hardyville, the director of the elections, well, Ms. Janine Bostic, she's going to get with the city and kind of work out an agreement on the payment that they owed us, or?
Yeah, I don't have any previous knowledge of that. I was never asked about that. So I'm going to send them back to her. She's the one that is the county authority that creates the bill. And so if they have an issue with the bill, they need to, I think, discuss it with her and the board. And I'll report back on that effort, what comes of that.
And if the county doesn't go forward footing the bill for the city of Hardyville's elections, what's the alternative?
Well, the alternative would be rescind your ordinance to provide the elections.
And then they would pay for their own elections, be in charge of their own elections. It would be their responsibility to
Correct.
oversee their own elections.
Yes, sir.
And that would probably be at a much higher cost than $3,900, if I had to guess.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Oh, sometimes I feel like